Now watch this drive.
What's up, ballers? And let me hear you holler in the comments. It's your hosts, Jacob and Cole, back with another video. And today we have decided to review some Super Smash Ultimate character tier lists.
Yes. The first tier list we're going to look at is one based on tournament results, compiled by the Reddit user u/funbuns_unicorns. And if you go to his post, you can see it's not just the tier list he posted, but the data he used to collect it, the matchup charts, the individual matchup charts for each character taken from their discords, best and worst stages, all sorts of fun stuff. So if you're a data nerd, this is the place to go.
Why don't we start with the best tier in the game, the F tier?
This is otherwise known as the tier that makes people cry. So I don't think there's any like super notable surprises here. I know a lot of people will put forward maybe Mewtwo, Puff, Bowser Jr., DK, and Byleth as characters who are potentially underrated in this tier, but in terms of tournament results, this makes a lot of sense to me.
I definitely agree with that as well. I could see Dr. Mario potentially being a little higher too, just because he has a lot of the same tools that Mario does. He's a little more powerful, although he doesn't have as great of a recovery and is definitely not as good. He's not nearly as fast.
Not as great of a recovery is a bit of an understatement.
The other thing is, this makes a lot of sense for Byleth with how new the character is, and there's not very much time to look at the results that Byleth can put up in actual matchups and stuff like that. And it just seems that some of these other characters really just, it makes sense they're here. They don't have too much representation by high-level players, and you know, the low-level players that do play them, they don't seem to do too well either.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to waste too much time on that. Moving right on to the D tier, I think you see a lot of characters here that are either incomplete, maybe, in their character design, like Meta Knight and Bayonetta, and Marth, and Banjo, and Lucario, where it feels like these characters could make some waves if they had one or two things tweaked about them, small buffs. You know, I know the Bayonettas and the Meta Knights from Brawl and Smash 4 are crying about how good the characters are in this game, but I think they're perfectly fine where they are.
I mean, based off results too, this makes a lot of sense. None of these characters, again, really have top-level representation. I mean, a character like Ryu here, I think could be or should be rated higher if this wasn't based off results, but it makes sense because I feel like a lot of people that would potentially be playing Ryu would just choose to use Ken.
That's exactly
or Terry, or someone better like that.
Actually, I was watching a tournament the other day, and someone it was funny, he was a Ken main, who went Shulk game 1 against a Game & Watch, and then Ryu game 2 against Game & Watch. But I just thought that was funny, because I never see anyone pull out Ryu. Another character here that kind of surprises me, but also doesn't, is Lucas, and it breaks my heart. Because I just think that Lucas is so close to being such a good character, but he's not consistent enough. His combos aren't very good. His tools, I think, just need one more little push, and then you see good Lucases, but they just can't do well because basically, I think his matchup spread in the top tiers are just horrendous.
Oh, definitely. And another thing is, you know, going based off the same thing with Ryu, there's also Ness who plays kind of similar, and some people might choose to do that. That's the thing with Marth too.
Yeah.
Is Marth is definitely down in D tier purely because of the other sorties, and there's just so many better sortie options that why would you play this character?
Honestly, Marth is pretty much better than every character in D tier. It's just that there is Lucina.
Yes.
In this D tier, I mean. Anyways, moving on to the whack C tier.
Yeah, this is where I think B and C tier are where things are really interesting looking at this, because I would not agree with how these are lined up skill-wise just based on the characters, but some of them make a lot of sense.
I think you gotta put
results. Yeah,
I mean, it kind of makes sense. I think some of it has to do with underrepresentation, but I think you gotta put Samus, Ken, Sheik, Young Link, Ike, and Terry. Maybe not Terry, but I think all those characters are solid.
I don't know about Sheik either. I think Sheik could potentially be bumped up a little bit.
I think Sheik is one of those characters that skill ceiling is so high, and you can see the Sheiks, Charlie the King, Void, really pushing the character hot, like very far, and you can definitely tell that as long as you can do all of the really tough things that Sheik forces you to do, that character is, in my opinion, very good, right?
Oh, definitely.
Like the matchup chart is not so bad.
No, but yet again, I mean, I think a lot of these characters in this tier have 1 or 2 players that are pretty good representing them, like Quick representing Samus.
Yeah.
There's Fatality representing Falcon. You have some good Ken mains out there.
Falcon should be lower.
Well, that's the thing, though. They have that one player that isn't amazing representing them, but is definitely like a very good player, probably in the 50 to 100 range of the PGR.
Honestly, probably the most surprising one to me is Young Link, because you see Skittles representing Yink, you see Toast representing Yink, and they have good results, but I guess it just must be, you know, the totality of the work. I think it's really interesting in terms of results, because I personally think that Big Link is better than Young Link, and I have received pushback for that opinion before. But I don't think it's by this much. I think Yink is definitely up there in B tier with Big Link. I think they're really close.
Yeah, there's other people that represent Big Link though, like T, who's a dominant player, and there's not really a Young Link like that yet. But the meta could definitely progress towards that, and I could see him raising up. I think the other thing is, a lot of these C tier and B tier characters, as the meta progresses in Ultimate, more characters are pushing them farther, or more players are pushing the characters farther, and these are characters that could potentially raise up
also
a significant amount.
Something really interesting to note is that Samus, Sheik, Ken, Young Link, and no one else in that tier, but those characters all got buffs recently.
Yes.
So, I think a lot of the information on this list has been the totality of Ultimate from the past year, and I think a lot of these characters really just broke out very recently, or relatively recently, so I think that could be a contributing factor in their relatively low placements.
I 100% agree with that, and like I said, I think these characters, or not all of them, but the characters named like Samus and Ken and some of these other characters really have the potential to boost up in the next year, and maybe even be at the top of B tier based on results if Quick can continue to progress and put up results.
And travel,
yeah. And if other players can continue to push these characters forward, like Toast and them, they could definitely bump up in the tier list in the future.
I don't really know, but how are the other Samus mains doing, like Joker and them?
Not nearly as well. Quick is really the only one who is doing anything significant right now. You do have YD, Joker, who do have some pretty sick Samus stuff, but they're clearly not putting up the results that Quick is.
Yeah.
Quick is really heading the character for us Samuses out there.
Alright, so this is maybe the most interesting tier, I think. The B tier.
Yeah, there's a lot of real interesting ones. I think the one that surprises me the most, to be honest, is Hero.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't expect to see Hero up that far.
Part of the reason he is that high up, though, is because so many people struggle with a character that is more or less based on RNG. And the thing about Hero is, even if you know how to play against a lot of these other characters, this is a matchup that a lot of people don't have, or especially when he came out, a lot of people didn't have serious experience with.
Yeah.
And you can get caught out by something like Thwack, or one of those moves that just kills you.
Actually,
and it's super hard to do anything about it.
I saw another really interesting match a while ago while I was waiting in the airport. And this was, I forget what tournament it was. Maybe it was Frostbite? I can't remember. But it was a Game & Watch playing a Hero. I watch a lot of Game & Watch matches. Sue me. But the Hero was the most interesting Hero I'd ever seen, because game 1, they didn't use any B moves. Not just the, they didn't just not use the down B, they didn't use any B moves. And they won. And it was crazy. The commentators were popping off about this Hero who was just not using the B moves. Game 2 starts, the Game & Watch adapts. Person is still not using the B moves, and the Game & Watch wins. And then, start of game 3, the instant mix-up, he starts only using the down B and the B moves. And it was ridiculous, and he wins game 3, and it was one of the funniest strategies I've seen with Hero. It was great. I was dying in the airport. It was hilarious.
I respect that, though. Definitely, Smash being a game of mix-up, and mix-up being super important. Something like that, where it's just using the moves very wisely. and saving some of that RNG BS to the end can really help you out.
Yeah. I think there's maybe only a few other surprising inclusions. There's Diddy, Falco, Simon and Richter, and I think Pichu is fairly surprising, right?
I think
the perception of Pichu is that he really fell off, right?
I mean, yet again, I think based on what you said earlier too, this being a list that shows a lot of results from the past as well, there's probably some people that dropped Pichu or pre-patch Pichu, pushing him up the list. I think he'll definitely fall into C tier in the next year.
Yeah.
I also see the same thing for Simon and Richter. I feel like people like Shuton at the beginning or like earlier in the meta were playing characters like Simon and Richter that were, it took people a little while to adapt to these types of players.
Yeah.
And now you see them, playing different characters.
Like, for instance, Duck Hunt, who is, I guess, just a really solid character in this game.
I mean, to be honest, yeah, Duck Hunt's really surprising to me too. He feels so janky and like he shouldn't work, but he's honestly not that bad, and there's some serious high-level representation of him too.
Rido. Oh my god.
Yeah, Rido's pretty sick. But I also think looking at some of the other characters is really interesting too. You have characters like Rosalina and Luma who are really being pushed by DeBuzz.
Same with Duck Hunt, I would say.
No, definitely. I mean, there is another Rosalina and Luma player, surprisingly, in the top 50 of the PGR.
What? Who?
It's a Japanese player named Kirihara.
I gotta watch more Japanese tournaments.
That's the other thing too, is it's really interesting analyzing kind of the Japanese meta compared to the US, because there's a lot of these characters that are more represented over there.
For sure.
As I will allude to a little bit, ZSS being one of those that is played more so in the European and Japanese meta, and those people are adapted to the characters a little more.
The last thing I want to say about this list, because I think the other characters, Link and Yoshi, Luigi has Elegant, Bowser has Leon, Ness is really represented, so I don't think those are any big surprises. I don't think it's a huge surprise that Cloud is in this tier in terms of how good he is, but I think it is a little surprising because he is maybe one of the more popular characters just at every level. Yeah. And especially recently. I think right when the online tournaments started, not that I think people picked up Cloud just to play him online, but I think that's right when he was beginning to get a huge groundswell of different players picking him up, like Cola. Obviously MK Leo plays every sortie that ever was, but
that and Spargo too.
Yeah, Spargo was tearing it up offline. There's a lot of other players who've been picking him up as a secondary. I just think it's interesting that he didn't quite crack A tier yet.
I agree with that, but I can definitely see it. The characters in A tier are, I just think, superior to Cloud in a lot of ways. Arguably, there are one or two that you could maybe put him over, but most of the characters in A tier are very, very solid, and they have very solid representation throughout too, and that's why they're there.
You want to move on to A tier?
Yep. I think
nothing really surprises me in A tier except for Pikachu.
To be honest, I'm not that surprised about Pikachu, because how many Pikachus do you really see outside of ESAM putting up significant results?
No one.
That's the
not even in Japan.
Pikachu is just seriously carried by ESAM. There are a few others out there, and Cosmos has been picking him up more recently.
Wow,
but that's a character that's hard carried by ESAM.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too because he's very universally thought of as, a top 3 or even a top 1 character in the game. But outside of ESAM, you're right, it's really hard to find anyone else who's pushing the character that far.
Yeah, definitely. Two things that I think are interesting in this A tier are Mega Man and Sonic. One, I think Mega Man is interesting being this high up the list because I feel like Mega Man is a good character, but he's not one of those characters that you think of when you think they're putting up significant tournament results consistently.
But I've never seen this type on Earth.
While Mega Man hasn't really been cracking the majors, the super majors, like that, there is a lot of really good Mega Mans out there, like Yeti and even Plup and...
Shout out to Le'Veon Bell.
Shout out to Le'Veon Bell and Japanese player. What's his name?
That's a good question.
No. It was Kameme. Right. I think some of those names are hard to remember.
Kameme.
But yeah, no, Mega Man is just, he's a really solid character that I think a lot more people play than is commonly given credit for.
For sure. I think another thing too, we're going back to the Sonic thing. I think Sonic is generally really interesting on this list as well, because Sonic, I feel like a lot of people underrate him as a character because he's very, I guess, reliant upon a couple moves, spin dash in particular. But that is one of the better moves in the game, to be honest.
I mean, yeah.
It's carrying the character, but it's that good that people are getting carried by that move to wins.
That's another character that you just see a lot of really good players representing at the top level, like Ken, Wrath, Sonic. These players were all putting up really solid results, even before the advent of online, which obviously made Sonic the public enemy numero uno.
Yeah, that's definitely really interesting, though. Sonic being this high.
Yeah. Not a lot of surprises in this tier, though. Wolf is ahead of Fox, which I think is right.
Now, clearly, there are players with each one of these characters that are really pushing them. You know, Mario's got Dark Wizzy.
Yeah.
Lucina's got Proto Banham when MKLeo plays him. Inkling has Cosmos.
Roy has Cola and Goblin. Shulk has Nico, and Pac-Man has T.
Yep, and then Light, of course, plays Wolf, and then Tweak and all the others that play.
And Fox, yeah. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the Spaceys, a lot of the players who play Wolf or Fox or Falco play all the other ones too, and just pull them out from time to time.
For sure.
Alright, we've spent a lot of time on this. Let's move on to S tier.
Honestly, no surprises.
Yeah.
I think everything about this makes sense. The only thing that I am slightly surprised about, but I guess not that really, is I feel like Peach / Daisy could have been a little higher up, just purely because Sam Sora really like pushes that character. And you look at the other S tier tops, you know, Palutena's pushed by Nairo and has a lot of other mid-level representation. Joker's pushed by Leo, and then a lot of people play Joker
secondary.
as well. Yeah, there's, like, I was talking to Cole about this earlier. There are 3 players in the top 50 of the PGR that solo main ZSS. So clearly she's getting the results.
Right. I think it goes to show too how solo viable, not just ZSS, but
every single one of those
characters is. Maybe not Rob. Maybe not Rob. Rob kind of eats into some of these characters.
He does, and I think that also speaks to, like,
honestly, Rob might be the biggest surprise on the S tier.
To be honest, I'm not too surprised by that. I mean, you have Zachary who plays Rob. You have a bunch of other characters that play Rob. But I think the thing that is very important about that is a lot of them have secondaries. Yeah. And they'll bust out those secondaries in matchups that Rob doesn't win. But most of the players that play him are good enough with their secondaries to get past those matchups and then push their Rob farther into the tournament.
Yeah.
So maybe their Rob would lose in a lesser round and he wouldn't be quite as high up result-wise. But since they're able to overcome that matchup with their secondary, they can just push Rob farther, and you know, you see the Rob success in the matchups that he's good in.
Snake is another character that I think people really decided was not as good as everyone thought from the beginning. There was a lot of people sort of saying that Snake, you know, people kind of figured him out, or he just his strategy isn't really conducive to the habits that are the best in the game in terms of winning. I think Ultimate is trending towards more of a punish-based meta, where the characters that have the best punish games are the ones that are the best. That's why you see Wario and Rob and Peach and ZSS, Joker, Palu at the top, and, you know, Pikachu, obviously, too. It's just that these characters have not only some of the best punish games in the entire game, if not the best punish games, you know, just based on, you know, not Luigi, but they have that perfect mix of, they have the best punish games, and then their neutral games are also, if not also top tier, good enough to support those incredible punish games.
No, 100%. I definitely agree with that too.
But that's why I think it's like, oh, so Snake is still staying up here because his neutral tools and his projectile game is that strong.
Yeah, and I mean, his punish game's insanely good too.
Yeah.
I think, going to the Luigi point too, Luigi even being B tier with that bad of a disadvantage state and that weak of a neutral just shows how important the punish game is, because especially with Luigi, you get grabbed, you're dead if the Luigi's good enough.
Yeah.
And with all these other characters like Wario, if the Wario knows what he's doing and has those waft confirms, it's basically a stock. And you have to really be careful when the Wario gets the waft to just stay away, because you're just going to lose a stock in 3 hits if he knows how to confirm it correctly.
Honestly, I feel like Wario maybe has the best punish game out of the S tiers, just because of waft. I think his combo game is comparable to Peach or Palu, but just having the waft for that 1 stock or 2 stocks a game is such an advantage in terms of how you can play against your opponent that I think Wario just has the best punish game in the game. But obviously he can get beat up and he can get comboed, so his neutral is not the best.
I mean, I don't know if there's some other characters with really good punish games like Luigi and some of the other heavies like Bowser, but I think Joker also has a really good punish game, especially when he has Arsene.
Arsene is the best character in the game.
Yes.
So,
but I mean, Joker also has a ton of really good kill confirms, like setups, because you get caught by the drag down there, and then you just instantly combo that into an up smash or something like that, and you're dead. And Joker's back air and all of Joker's moves when he has Arsene are just amped to another level, which is really crazy. That about wraps up our list, or checking out this tier list. I think it's really interesting where some of these characters are placed based on results, because I wouldn't quite put them there based on what their character actually is.
Right.
And it seems as though some of the B tiers, possibly A tiers, that are falling out of the meta, like Inkling, like Simon, Richter.
I think Lucina is going to keep
drop.
slipping. Hot take. I think Lucina is going to keep slipping in the results.
I don't know about that one, especially with Proto Banham. I feel like on the rise.
Well,
the character.
I hope really Proto Banham does good. I love watching him and Mr. E and Leo whenever he decides to pull out his Lucina / Marth combo. I think they're really fun characters to watch. I think they're not the hardest characters in the world, obviously, but I don't think that's very important. If you want to watch a really hard character, you should watch Sheik.
For sure. I think another thing, though, with that is, as long as Proto Banham or one character is really pushing the meta, as you can see with Pikachu, if you have that inside top 15 representation of the character and the person's practically solo maining them, they're going to remain in the A tier status, or for sure possibly even bump up to S tier.
No, I don't think Lucina's going to fall out of A tier, but I think that some of these other characters are going to be on the rise. Like, I think Lucina, Olimar, and Inkling, out of all the A tiers, are the ones that are slipping. And I think all the other ones are sort of knocking on the door.
Yeah, I think Inkling is, in my opinion, the one who is most likely to slip, especially with the best Inkling in the world, Cosmos, potentially
losing faith in the character.
Potentially picking up Pikachu, which would destroy the character in this.
Although, honestly, I think that's going to put some respect on Pikachu's name if Cosmos can put up results with him.
Definitely. Also, I think another character...
we really tried to wrap this up and then kept talking about it, didn't we?
Yes. But the last thing is, of course, there are characters in all these lists, or all of these tiers, that will likely fall. Pichu, Simon Richter, you have characters on the rise like Samus, Ken. But it's really interesting to analyze a list that is purely based on objective results, on where these characters stand, instead of all of these other lists that are based on subjective opinion of players and other things like that.
Because another thing we didn't talk about is just how popular the character is, and how that affects how many results they have.
Definitely. It's really, because I mean, people can play whatever character they want.
Palutena.
And another point to this is MK Leo. I feel like if he played any single top tier and dedicated his, game to playing any character in A or S tier, they would probably be top 3 in the game, just because MK Leo would push them to get those results.
I mean, we see that with Tweak too.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't switch characters, or MK Leo doesn't switch characters as much as Tweak, but we see MK Leo playing other characters, and he always takes them to the promised land. When Tweak switches a character, everyone just says, "Oh wow, this character is really great." So I think definitely a lot of our opinions can be skewed by how good the top players are, just in a vacuum.
100%.
thank you all for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, we hope that you drop a like, a sub, and a comment. Let us know your opinions about the tier lists and how results versus popularity versus potential affects your opinion of the characters. I'm Cole, this is Jacob, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for tuning in.
You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.